Hello, everybody. I'm so glad we've met today. I'm so happy that we are going to learn the Ruby on Rails and build some application from scratch. Now, I believe that most of us here have some introduction to Ruby on Rails, but what we want to do today is that we like to go over the concept again, and then probably we miss some things. That's why we decided here, and then we can chip in those things that we miss. But if you are completely new to Ruby on Rails, then the biggest suggestion is that to know how to get up and running, you need to go to the Ruby on Rails guide, and they've made a great documentation over here. They just show us what Ruby on Rails is, which is a web application, an application for building web apps, and then you can use it to build almost everything. And then Ruby is so powerful if you look at this place because it follows some convention that make coding in Ruby so simple and so lovely. And one of those conventions is don't repeat yourself. So you don't write code, the same code in multiple places. They allow you as to write reusable components that can use in different places. And as we keep building this application, you get to know how this makes Ruby so powerful and so lovely. And then they have the second principle called convention over configuration. And what that means is that they have some suggestions about the best way to do some things. So you don't have to worry about doing a lot of configurations, like what happened when we are building applications and some things like React. We have to do our own configuration and set up on how things should work. But when working with Ruby on Rails, they just make some decisions for us, and that makes coding in Ruby on Rails so lovely and so easy. Now, to get up and running, if you've not done it already, this guy just show us what we need to get up and running. We need Ruby, we need SQLite, or if you have another database, for example, I am going to use Postgres. You can install it there and it is going to work fine. And you need to check your Ruby version. And they are saying that at least we need Ruby version 2.7. And yeah, so if you are new, we need to check out this guide so that we know how to get up and running. But for us, we have the setup done. Let me show you my setup. So this is what I'm going to use, Rails-V. This is my Rails version, and I'm using Rails version 7 and Ruby. V just show us the Ruby version I'm running. So you have, if you have any of these and then SQLite or Postgres installed, then you are good to go. This is what we are going to build. Like, we are going to try and build the Code Academy website from scratch. Not all the components, but most of the things on their site. So it'll help us to know how to build a homepage, how to build an application that requires to save data into the database, how to build the CRUD functionality, create, read, update, delete. We'll learn how to do this. And then we'll try to create the courses out there. Then the courses are going to help if you like this. If you see this, this is a course and it's going to have some name, description, it's going to have sections. And these sections are going to have lessons. And we are going to see how to model all this data. Yeah, so without wasting time, let's look at how to set up a Ruby on Rails application on our local environment. The first thing we do is to run this command, Rails new, then the app name. Let's try to see that. Rails new, then we add the app name. That is all we need to do to create an application in Ruby on Rails on a local environment after setting up the local basic things that we need. But there's a trick I want to show you. And that trick is that if you want to know, like, what can you set up or what can you build, then you can add this command. I think it's popping up here, but dash help. They are already giving us that. So the dash help command just show us the things that we can set up while generating a new Ruby on Rails application, or while generating a skeleton for a Ruby on Rails application. And it talks about a lot. We can generate an application from a template. But normally, for me, what I normally use is to add a database to my application. For example, let's assume that I know that I have a database in mind that I'm going to use. For example, Ruby on Rails support these databases. MySQL, Postgres, SQLite, Oracle, there's a whole lot. And then let's assume that, oh, I know that I'm going to use Postgres. I can just go ahead and ask the -d flag, something like this. Rails, new, my app name, then -d, they are showing us here. -d, then d, then we add the database is equal to, and the database name is Postgres. And if you are lost with what the database name is, you can just copy it from here to Postgres keyword, and then we would be good to go. And then if you run this command, it is going to set up Postgres automatically for us. The other command that we may like, if you have a CSS framework in mind, let's assume you want to work with Tailwind, no, Bootstrap, Burma, Poma, whatever. You do the same thing for the CSS framework. You can add it, and then it will get set up with it without any work. Another thing is that you may want to skip test files. So do you want to skip test files, or do you want to build them? There are a lot of commands out here. You can take your time to go over that command. But for me, I'm just for this purpose of this tutorial, I'm just going to create this app from scratch without anything. Then we can build those stuff from here. So I'm going to call this lessons. That's going to be our app name. And I'm just going to run enter. Now it's going to generate a lot of things that we need for us. But whilst generating this, I would like us to go over the things that we would like to do after the setup is run. So first of all, let me show you this guide here. We have catalog. And then the catalog, let's say we want to explore all courses. Yeah, so we have a lot of languages. And then these languages are a lot. Then when you click on one language, let's assume that I click on any of these languages. I click on it. It takes us to language / that language key. So you can see that a language is an entity in a database. And then once we click on a language, it just shows us a little bit about that language. And look, courses on that language. Now, this is a relationship they are building between language and a course. Can you see that? From a language, you go to the course, and then it lists all the languages, all the courses under that language. The same thing for the others. And then from there, when you click on the course, let's assume we click on one of these courses. Let's see what happened. It takes us to the course, and then we'll see an overview of the course, and we are also able to see the content of that course. So great, right? And then each course also has some section. We can call this a section. So look, it has a section. And then the section is also having lessons. Now, our thing is completed. So we would start building this, but I'd like us to start from scratch and create this application. So once our app is started, I'd like to see the, where do we go? Let's see the thing. All right, right. And then pull it up. I like to open up the same code. So I'm going to use VS Code. It's my default browser. This thing. So our app has been created successfully. And let's look at the folder structure. If this is the first time you are working with Ruby on Rails, it may be a bit confusing, but don't be scared. There's a whole lot of things created for us. Most of the time, we are going to work in the app folder because the app folder contains all the files we need to work, at least for our basic application. Later, you may interact with the other folders. But if there are anything about styling, images, asset files, you just put them in the asset file. I think that's one place we're going to interact the most. And then the controller is going to be used to create our controllers. We'll get to know why it is useful. Then for now, we care about the models for writing our models, and then the views for our view files. The rest, yeah, the config is going to have that route file, which is going to show the URLs we are going to route to. Then the database setup, for now, don't worry about it. Then the DB is going to hold our seed, our migration. Yeah, then we may interact with the test file later. So don't worry so much about this application. I think we are good to go. And let me change my root version. 3.1. All right. Cool. Okay. Great. So now, after creating this Rails application, we like to run the Rails. After creating any Ruby application, we first want to set up a database so that at least the database know that something like this is coming. So the command we run is Rails db set up. So it just set up our database for us. Then after running Rails DB setup, we can go ahead and run our set up our application very well. Great. Our application database has been set up. Let's see Rails S or Rails server. And this is going to start our application on localhost 3000. And can you imagine this is running? Let's go to localhost 3000. And check our Ruby on Rails application. And yay, the app has been created successfully. If you were able to get here, congratulations. You've done a great job. And I'm so proud of you. Good job. Now, we want to do a lot. We don't just want to care about this stuff. It's doing nothing. So what we want to create is now, we like to set up the homepage or the welcome page. And if we are going to set up anything, so if we are going to set up anything that does not have something in the database, so let's assume we want to set up the homepage or the welcome page, and it has nothing to do with the database. We are not going to create any database or do any CRUD application with it. Then the first place we start from is to create a controller and then just give it a view and then the route. But if what we are going to create has to do with the database, we have to save something, perform some CRUD application, then the first thing we do is to create a model. Then from the model, we create the controller, view, and then the route. So we are just going to follow the MVC part, the model, view, controller. But this time we know that we don't have any model associated with the welcome page. So all we do is to just go ahead and create our controller, and then that controller is going to be what we need. So let's generate a welcome page controller. And Rails, the command to generate a controller is Rails G or Rails generate, like the command is coming, and then we generate what? A controller. But we may be stuck, we don't know what is installed for a controller. What can I add? And Rails just provide the -h command, just as we did for the Rails new. The Rails generate controller also come with a -h command, and that -h command is going to tell us all the things we can add when creating controller. And let's hit it and see what they are expecting from us. And they are saying that to create a controller, we just run Rails generate controller, the controller name, then the HTTP action, and the options. And they are saying that we can skip some things. We can just, if it is having a parent, we can just give the parent name. And they are giving some examples here. Look, they are saying that Rails generate controller, and then they are telling us that controller it should start with a capital letter, and then it should end with an S. The controller name should not be singular, it should be plural. Then we need to add the action. And those actions are that HTTP verb. If you look at the Rails routing helper, it just comes with that HTTP verb. So they have like the get index, then they get the new form, get a post, get the post ID, we edit, we put, and we delete. And we can add those methods over here. Sorry, those actions over here. And we can add as many as possible. And we don't only have to worry about those 7, which come by default with Rails, like those new index, new, edit, update. No, you don't have to worry about them. If you look at this place, they are just adding a lot. Like they are adding credit card, open, debit, credit, close. So the credit cards controller, it means that you are free to use to create any action that you want in your controller. So let's look at this example and create our home controller. We are going to give it some actions, and let's just copy and paste. Why not? Or let's type from scratch. So Rails G. Now you can do bin/Rails or Rails generate. It doesn't care. It's going to. So Rails generate controller, and our controller is going to be home. And they are saying that it should start with a capital letter. So home, and then look, it should end with an S. So home's controller. How about that? And then what are the actions that we need? The HTTP action. We need the index, because at least we are going to the home index path, and then yeah, that's all we need. That's all we need. Let's hit enter and see what they generate for us. Cool. They generated a lot of files for us, but they've generated a controller in the controllers folder, and they've generated a route. Can you see this? And they've generated a view. They've generated a test file, a helper. Don't worry about testing helper, we'll talk about them later. But for now, let's look at the controller that was generated for us. Boom. We've generated a homes controller, and they've added an action, HTTP action. That is one. And then that's the power of Rails. They generated some views for the home controller. And this is going to be that home controller view, what we will see when we go to the home controller. And then they've generated a route. So that route is here. If you go to config, and then route is here. And they've added this route over here. It means that when we go to homes/index, we are going to see that controller with this, or our home page. And this makes Ruby so powerful. I think we have our app already running over here. So let's go to our app. Then remember it is no, they are saying that /homes/index. So homes/index. Great. And this is working nicely. So anything that we add here inside the views, homes index, anything. Let's say we have on each one. Hello. We have a paragraph. This is a home page. Anything we add here, once we refresh, it is going to be shown up on our homepage. Congratulations, we've done this also. But look at the route. This is the slash home index. We don't like this. We don't want this. So in Rails, we would like this to be a default route when we go here. We go here. And Rails automatically come with a default page that we can show. But let's override this. And then let's go to routes. And then look, they are saying that we should define our root path like this. And that is going to be slash. So let's just go on comment this and then add the home here. So it's home, and then that index action is going to be our root path. And let's see. So now this is here, but once we refresh, good, that default page is gone. And we'll never see it again. We have a working home page. If you want, we can just take away that default one that comes with this. We don't care about it again. We only want this to be our home page. And you can go ahead and use the same formula to create as many pages as possible. Let's assume, don't worry, we want to create an about page. So an about page, what do? We just go to the controller, home controller, and then let's create this. So we defined an HTTP method called about. And let's see, about. Great. Can you see this? Great. We save. And then what else do we do? Remember, we have the controller. There should be some view. Let's go to views, homes, because this is a homes controller. So always the view is going to be inside homes. And then we are going to create about.html.erb. Great. And let's add some content here. So let's see each one. This is about page. You can add any content that you want. And look, it is working. And now we need to give the route. Where do we want to see this route? So I'd like to show you this in Rails routing. Yay. So let's go down here. Sure. Can you see this? They are showing us how to do the routing. I think this should be enough. So they are saying that we should do the get. Let me copy this. And they are saying that get the route name is going to be patient/ID. Then it goes to this. Now they are saying that we can even give it an alias. So patient, this, and that. So let's try to copy this and then just update what we need. Now this is the home page, like the root part. That's why we did not do anyone. But look at this. Let me quick Copilot. It's just using it. Great. So where do we want to go? We'd like to go to /about. And then what is the controller name? It's going to be homes, then about, and it's going to be about. That's the alias we are given it. And then once this is saved, and we just go to about. Great. We have our about page here. And we can use this formula to create as many pages as possible. All we do is that, remember the formula. We first need to create a controller method, controller action. Then from there, we create a view for it, following the controller name, like it's going to be inside views, and that controller name, then go to that folder. If it's home controller, home folder inside the views, if it is welcome. Then we create a file. It's going to be up the action name. Now look, it matches. If the action name is about, then the page name should be about. That's one of the conventions we will follow. If it is index, then the file name should be index. If it is welcome, the file name is welcome. It follows that way. Then we add any content we want. Then after that, the last one is to do is that we create a route for it, following this rules convention. Where do we want to go? What controller name? What action? Then what is going to be the alias? Now we see why we give them alias. later while flipping. So this is how we create any page that has nothing to do with the database. Yeah, we good. And let's keep on going. The next thing that we'd like to do is that for now we've created a home page, an about page, which is cool. But remember, we normally want to interact with the database. We normally want to read, update something. And this is the next thing that we like to create. So I'm going to this is great. So I build this I don't want to waste your time. I build this great. So I build this, like I look at I'm sorry, I don't have the entity relation diagram set up correctly, but this is something I built, like looking at the website. So remember that we had a language. Each language was having a name. Great. Then there were categories. The categories are, let me show you. They are the level. So this is the beginner category, and they can be a lot of categories. But those categories has to do with that course. So a course could have a category. Then, boom. So let's see what a course has. Let's look at this course. So we were looking at this and we saw that a course has a name, description. A course is having a language ID. So that's why we can see that this course is on Python. Then a course is also having category ID. That's what I just showed you. So I just build this. And then a course has sections. If you look at this place, look, a course is having various sections. And this is a section, this is a section. I just decided to name a section. You can name it anything you want. And this is a section. And a section is having a name, and then it has a description. Name, description. Then a section has a course ID because a section belongs to a course. Then each section is having a lot of lessons. These are the lessons. And then we can click on a lesson to view that specific lesson. So that's what I built here. The lesson is also having a name, description, URL, section ID. And then we like to build this application using the Ruby on Rails. Don't worry if it seems complicated. We are going to start everything from scratch. So let's start from creating a language. So we are going to start creating the model view controller, MVC, show it on the screen, add some data, and then show that data on the screen, perform CRUD applications on that entity. And then we can use that Rails generator. Normally, that's what we use, Rails generator. Then it will generate everything for us. But for now, because we like to go over the concept, let's look at how we can build this from scratch without using the scaffold generator. We are going to use the generator automatically, but then we don't really want to use the scaffold for now. We would like to use it later. All right. So we said, let me go to the rules guide on the getting started. And then, yeah, they generated, like, this is how they generated the first page that we work on, that's the home page, and they did generate it. They created the actions and it was working fine. And yeah, for now, this is where we are. I'm just following the guide. You can also do the same thing while going over the tutorial. So first of all, we are going to create a language entity in our database. So they are saying that the first thing we like to care about is to create a model. Now, what is a model? A model is a class in Ruby that is used to represent data. And then once you create a model, they are saying that they create something called, you are working with something called active record. you are saving data through the active record. So let's also see if we can create a model for what we said, the language. So we need a model to save the data into our database. Then we can now use the controller view and then the route to show the data on screen. So let's go to our terminal. And let me expand this guy. All right, let's go here. Great. So Rails G model. Now for the model to, just as we did for the other entities, we are going to add the -h command to see what comes out of it when we are working with a Rails model. What can we do? And they are seeing there a lot. Let's look at an example. Great. They are saying that when we want to generate a model, we add the model name, the field, the type, the index. You can go over these docs, and there's a whole lot. So they are saying that it generates a new model. To generate a new model, you pass a model name, either camel case or underscore, and an option list of attributes paired with arguments. And they are saying that the attributes are a lot. Let's look at an example of an attribute. The attribute could be the types, types. For example, if we want to create this model, say post, the type could be title. The title could be of type string. So we could have integer, primary key, decimal, float, boolean, binary, string, text. These are all types that come. So if you get lost along the line while creating the model, just come over here, look at what they have, and just look at the example. And one beautiful thing is that we can also add references. And what does the reference that? It says it generates an album ID, for example. This, we are referencing the album. So it generates an album ID column in this model. So it means that first we should have that album model in our database, and then we may want a photo to have an album ID. So a photo belongs to an album. And this is how we do it. We don't have to worry a lot about creating that relationship or that association. We'll just handle it for us. Even if we are working with a multi-level relationship, we can go ahead and use this, and it will just work fine for us. There's a whole lot. We can even limit, if we are working with string, what is the limit of string that we can expect? We can even say 30 or something. So without wasting time, let's look at an example over here. Rails generate model. What is the model we like to generate? We like to generate the model for the language. So let's say Rails generate model. And then they are saying that to generate a model, it should be small letter. Look, it should be small letter. So this is language. Remember the controller was, you start with a capital letter, then you add an S to it. But for the model, they don't add any S to it. So look, we'll generate model user, no users, not capital P, capital user. Then what are the fields we want? We just want any language is having a name, and let's see, a name is a string. And that is going to create a model for us. And let's hit enter and see. Great. The model was generated for us. Let's look at what they have. So it's created a migration. Anytime we generate a model, it will automatically come with a migration. Now, let me take some time to tell you what migrations are about. So let's see, Rails migration. All right. So when do we generate a migration? They are saying that when we want to add a column, let's say we already have a table in our database and want to add a different column to it, we generate a migration. We don't have to worry about creating a new table again. When we want to add something to your table, just create a migration. When you want to add an index, when you want to change a column, when you want to change a table, or when you want to create a table. And that's what was done for us when we did this. There's a whole lot. You can go over later. But for now, what we did was to create tables. Look. So that is an example of a migration. We create table. And then it also generates the model class for us. And we said the model class is just a representation of what we have in a database. And this class, what we can use it for is that we can write anything that or any checks we would like to do here. Let's assume that this model is having some relationship with other models. We just add that relationship here. Let's assume that we like to do some checks or validations. We have those validations here. This is basically what we do with this class. Yeah, for now, don't worry about a lot. After doing this, the next thing we do is that we should run something called migration. Sorry. After creating this, we need to just run row-db migrate. That migrate command will just put this data into our database. So let's clear bad Rails DB migrate. And that migration will just pull this language thing into our database. Because before running that migration, it means that we don't have this entity created in our database. It just do that for us. We now have the language class in our database. Now, if you want to check what is in your database, there are a lot of ways, but the simplest I can show you is that you go to your schema. Right, and you can see that, hey, we got language table inside our database. Now you could see that I was using this command to just search for files. And if you want to search for any file in the Rails application, sometimes you may try to do this, and then you start going over the files, and then you think that, oh, where's this file? Where's this file? Where's this file? It's just annoying because there's a whole lot of files there. But the simplest way is to use Control P on Windows or Command P on Mac. Then you start searching the file name. So if you are searching for, let's say, schema, you start typing and they'll show you that file. And you just hit enter, it will open up that file for you. You don't have to worry about a lot of things. And, let me see this guy here. All right. So yeah, we have this in our database working fine. So we have the model created. And then to test that our model is working, Rails also come with something called Rails console. And that Rails console, what it does is that it allows us to interact with our database. So let's run Rails console to see if we can add some language or add some data into our database. All right, so remember the model that we created was called language. It was called language. But what if we don't know if that model was created, or we just want to see that tables in our Rails application? There's a command that we run. I would like to just copy and paste this here. Say active record based connection tables. And that what it does is that when you run this in the Rails console, it just shows you all the tables you have in your Rails table. Your Rails database. So we now have the languages there. Now don't worry about these two, they come by default with Ruby on Rails. So it is called languages. But when we want to interact with it, always we enter the model name, the model class name. Look, over here, it is not called languages. Like, let's say, language. Yeah. So this is the model name. That is what we will always use to check up the data, not in plural, not a table name, but a model name. So if you want to do something, it's called, sorry, my bad. All right. So just learn. What are you doing? All right, language. Let's see. You can use column names to check the column names that is in your model class. We are seeing that there's a lot. ID name, created that, don't worry about these things. Created that and updated that, and an ID will automatically be generated by Ruby on Rails. So don't worry about it. So all we do is that to create a new like thing in our database, we just add a name to language. Let me show you in the Rails guide. Yeah, you see that we go to the Rails console, then we add a new entity. Then we try and save it. So let's do something. Language dot create. And then that bank what it does is that when you are creating it, we can create a language without it. Let's say name is say yeah, all right, we can create a language without it and it will just be created. But what that bank thing, what it does is that it's just check that if there are any errors, don't create this name, don't create this language. You get a point. JavaScript 1, and it also creates. It's just the same thing, but the one check for validations, one validate the what you are creating and just give you an error message if it is not created correctly. But the other one will not do that for you. So always add that bank. Then, so now we're able to create something in our database. It means that it is working fine. To check what we have, we see language.org, and we see that we have 2 languages. And it means that our model is working correctly. If you're able to do this, then good job. You won it. All right, so we have our model. Great. We would like to show this on screen. So remember, the next thing we do is to just, number 2, create a controller for that whole entity, that language, then create a view, then create a URL, and boom, you can see this on the screen, and you start interacting with it. So let me just add language and yeah. All right, I'm just going to do this. Sorry, it's a lot, but perfect. So don't worry about comma. Okay. Okay. So we'd like to generate a controller for our language. Do you remember how we said we should create a controller? So Rails G controller, we add, it is going to be languages. You remember? Then we add the action name. So the action that we need is index. That index is going to be used to show all the languages in our controller. We can add a lot, but for now, let's start with this. So, and remember, one convention in Rails is that we should try our best. If our model name is languages, then our controller should be named as languages controller. Then it will be mapped with the model we created. Right, it's just a convention. We just need to put that. We have languages controller. We have the index path, which was created for us. And remember, we've done this before, so we understand it. It's created a view. Let's look at that. We now have a different folder. So let me close all other. Close other. Great. So we have the views, like this is now the language folder inside our views, just like the same thing. So anytime you generate a controller, it generates a whole new views file for you inside the view, so that you can add any data relating to that controller, which it should go on screen over there. So we have that action here. Great. And then the data here are going to be the languages. And then it also add inside the route. It also added the language thing here. But what they created, we don't like it. We would like to just update it to this format, because if this format should work, then what we need to do is that, look, I think I showed you. So it's going to be slash. It's going to be like language slash index. We don't want it this way. It's going to be language slash index before we get that language thing. But we don't want it. We want, what we want is that when we go to slash languages, we should be able to see the language thing. So all we do is that I would like to just do copy and paste. And when we go to slash languages, we go to languages, then it's going to be the index action. And what name should we give it? We are going to call it, remember this is plural, so we are just going to give it the same name, the same alias. Means that it is where we go and see the languages, and we save. And then once we save, we see the languages thing, it's just working fine. Perfect. Now, we would like to show the languages thing there, like on that screen. So we are going to learn something new here. Now, we can come here inside this action and define anything that we define here, any variable, any Ruby variable we define here, we can have access on this page, on this view here, this page. So let's say we define at languages as this. This is my language. We save, and we go here, we go inside this language index file, and let's assume we delete this. We are going to use real. Sorry, this is languages, and this is Ruby to render it. So when we do this, that variable we defined, look, this is my language, and it's coming from where? It's coming from the variable we defined here. So we can define any variable here, and that variable would be shown on the home, like the page, the associated page. I think you're clear with it. Great. But for now, what we like to do is that we like to call all the languages there, so we can see all the language. Language, the all. We like to just get all the languages inside our database. And we like to show it here. Let's see. And then when we go here, this is going to be an array, right? So we can't just render an array like this. In Ruby, I think we know how to render an array in we know how to render an array on screen, but let's go over this. So what we do is that, all right, so we can, so we open a new place to type our Ruby code. You'll see at language, that variable we define dots each. Then what do? We use a do block. We give it a name. We say language. Now, I think this is Ruby code, so you don't have to worry about it. I love to add my end. And then we remember the language is having a name. So what should we do? We can just say we choose this language. Let's do this dot name. So we can tap into that name for the language. So for each language we have, all we are saying that we should just show the name of that language. And it is rendering up here. That's not nice. Let's add an li to it. So we can do li. And for each, we are going to show that in an li. And great. So this is showing up here. Now, if you want to add some content here, you can just do this is language thing. All right. Then I think you can go ahead and add a div CSS style. Don't worry, we'll talk about that later. But hey, we added that in the quick. I hope this is not too scary. Yeah, so that is how we pull data from the database, show it on the screen. If there are any questions, you kindly let me know. Okay, the next thing that I'd like to do is after we doing this, we having a language thing here. We don't only care about like getting the language, seeing the language. We'll also want to create a language. And to do that, this routing is saying that if we want to create something on the screen, we need a form. Look, we need a form, and this return a form. So this is what we created. This /post, and which goes to the post index space, return a list of all the photos. But for us, it was a list of all the languages. Then after this, we need the form to return, like the form where we can add a new language. And they are saying that we need to create an action, and that action should be new inside that controller. So let's see what they are saying. So go to the controller, and we now have the index action, but we should create a new one called new. Great. We have the new form here, and when VS Code start misbehaving, and they are saying that this new, like this action, is what we are going to use to create the form. Right. Now, I'd like to show you a trick. Let's go to the rules console once again. And let's see. Great. So when we want to create a language, we can define a variable. Let's say C, or let's do L, just up to you. You can give it a new variable. The language, the new. Then you add the language parameter. So let's say name, it's set to Ruby. Yay. And you see that new, initially we use the create, but when we use new, it is not going to be saved automatically into the database like create. What it does is that we are assigning the new object into this variable called L. And then the benefit of using the new over the create is that with the new, we can do some validations on the language to check if everything is successful before we save that. So if we tap L, we know that L calls a language, but it has no ID. The fact that it has no ID means that it has not been saved into the database. So if you look at the language, the all, you can see that Ruby is not part of it, but still we have L created. And then if we want to save, we just do L.save. And now when we do language.all, now Ruby has been added. I don't know if you're clear. The same thing is what we do. When we want to create a form, we would like to hold the data that comes from the form. I know if you are correct. So let's say language, singular language is going to be language that's new. And this is going to hold, like, this is going to be used to hold that language that comes from the form. I think it should be clear. All right, so when we tap in there, We add an action in the controller. Do you remember the next thing we do? We create something in the views, following this convention. So what we are going to create is inside the languages view file, we go and create a new file there. So a file called new, and this is here. We add a file and it's new .html .erb. Great. And this is going to be used to solve our form. Cool. Now, I'd like to take you to the Rails guide to see how they created their form. We can learn something from it. I'm just showing you this so that when you are working with this, it's not going to be like, hey, let me go and look back into the code and see, what did he do? That's crazy. All right, let me go and copy this for you. All right, this is what they said we should do. So they are saying that, let me open the side by side here. Remember, we have the language thing created here. So we can say we are going to create a new language. And then Rails come with something called form web. And what that form web does is that it allows us to create HTTP forms. And these forms come automatically with some helpers. For example, get, put, post, patch. We don't have to worry about where the form is going. We only worry about giving it the right model. And Rails will handle everything behind the scene for us. So what is the model name? Our model name is going to be called language. Corresponding to this, we're going to be called language. And then we have something called a label. A label is going to be used to store, like, you know, a label, what is that? So, and yeah, we don't have a text, so we are just following this. So it's just we creating a language, having something on the screen for language. We give it the model name. We add a form, and this form is just used to, like, I hope you understand this. And then we see the form with that, the form with method called label should be given, and what should be the name? Like, it should be called name, and then form text field. And if you want to know all the fields that comes with Rails form with methods, I think you can go ahead and search for Rails form with helper. Great. So they are saying that we have checkbox, whatever. And I think, yeah, they list all the things you can get from Rails form with helper. Text area, hidden field, password. So in case you get lost, this is just for you. And they show you the output or what you can get. If you are just used to CS HTML, what you can get when you like use any of these, right? Cool. So we now have our form. We've created a controller. We have the form. What is left? Route. So let's go to route. Yay. And we need to create a route for this. Great. So what should be the route name? Let's go to the route, Rails route, and then they are saying that the route is going to be post/new. Can you see this? Yeah, so we are going to do the same thing. So it's going to be, let me copy and paste. So it's a get request here, languages/new. Then what is the controller name? It's still language. What is the action? It is new. This is what we go. Yeah. And what name should we give it? It should be new language. New languages. Sorry, new language, not new. It's singular, new language. So it means that when we go to language, like new, you are going to see our form there. I think you can see that Rails is like not too difficult to code. We have the form there. We have our form there. And they automatically even give us a name, create language. But you can see that we did not enter create language there. We just say form to submit. But Rails, the form with helper, just know that the model is language, and this is coming from the new HTTP action. So they are going to just add the create for you. But if you like, you can give it a name you want. For now, we're also saying that, hey, I'm recommending create for you. It's great. So let's go with that. All right. The next thing is that we need to submit our form. But we can't just go ahead and submit the form. I'm still following the rules guide. And they are saying that to submit a form, no, go to the route, we have to create a post request. And where does that post request go? To /post. So for us, it's going to be /language. And then we have to create an HTTP action called create, which create a new photo. This method is not going to be get, it's post. Post going to where? /post. We create a create action for it, and then this is it. So let's go here. I think we don't care about you guys again. We create another one. And it's going to be create. And this is going to be this. And then after doing the create, we would like to, what we do is that we like to take the data that comes from, we like to take the data that comes from that form, right? Come in. Great. We like to take that data that comes from this form. But there's something we need to be aware of. And we're also saying that there are some security issues when creating a form. So let's go over the docs and see what they were doing when they were creating their form. I'm just showing you because it's just good for your health. You don't have to worry about memorizing all these things. Yay! Let's just copy and paste. I mean, copy and paste is not always a bad thing. At least when you know what you're going to do. Not great, not bad. All right. So we define a create action, and we are seeing that they are giving it a name, articles. You go to article.name with article params. We don't have article params, so let's see. It's going to be a private method. Private. And then the reason why we define it as a private method is that we don't want anyone to automatically add things that they think is good. Like they can just add any variable there. No, we want to allow them, we want to allow only some certain parameters. So this is going to be language params. And let's define the language params over here. Why are you misbehaving? Oh, mismatch and don't worry. I hope you are not going to be crazy with me. All right, so it's going to be an a Rails and this, and then what do we want to permit? See params. So the params is going to be what we are taking from the form, then the permit. All right, so just come in permit for which model is going to be language. All right, and then what do we want to permit in the language model? So we do permit, and then we only want to permit name. It means that if someone should submit anything outside name, we don't want to permit it. That's why we add it in our private method. We could have just done it here, but we want to make it private so that nobody can just change it by himself, right? So we don't want to create article. We are going to create language. And then what we are going to save is not going to be article is going to be language. And yay, this is all we need to do. So we now say that we are taking some data from the form. Language is going to be the form. Then we are just saying that if, just as I showed you with the new thing, if we are creating, we can do some validation. But if the validation checks pass, and then we are able to save the data, we like to redirect to a language. A language is going to be languages / that language ID. Or if it is not saved correctly, I think this is why this guy is left. Yeah. If it is not saved correctly, we like to render the new form again. But give it a status that, hey, we couldn't process your request. And that is all we need to do. But for now, there's a trick I'd like to show you, and we call that debugger. The debugger just comes with Rule 7. I think my VS Code has started. Yeah, the debugger just comes with Rule 7, and it allows us to stop running our code. It's like in Ruby on Rails, where you stop running the code, you see what data is coming, like, and then boom, you can just check the data if it's correct, and then you can work with it. Remember, we have this action, but we don't have a route created for it. We need a route. And how should that route look? We still want to check out this guy here. They are saying that the route should go to, get this, create, and then create this guy. So it is not going to be get, it's going to be post, and then the post is going to be slash, let's say, slash language. Yeah. And then we are going to be language of create, that's the method name, and then the name we are giving it is create language. Now it should follow this: create language, new language this. That's the alias. It should follow that from the instance. We are good to go. Let's take the code and see what comes out of it. All right. Great. So let me refresh my page. They're saying that, oh, error, unexpected enough input, expecting end on 26. You got an error, so I like to see this. Okay. It should end. We did not close this guy. That's why they are yelling at us. Cool. Perfect. So we have the language. Let's see my new language. And when I hit this, the debugger is going to stop running the code. It will not go. This is just a trick I like to show you. Come on. Great. Do you see that the debugger stop over here? It's stop. Look, it's stop here. And then once it's stopped, we can go ahead and check what is coming. It is called at languages. So just go and type, oh my goodness. Yeah, don't do this to me. At language. Yeah. Can you see that? Oh, a language is coming with no name. Why are you coming with no name? Let's see. Yay. They are seeing routing error, language URL. Oh, we made a mistake. Yay. Routing error. Routing error. Why are we having routing error? We come in. So we go to /languages, right? Then where do we go? We go to language/create. And then the access create language. And then let's go to the new form. We are going to see the form width goes to, I'm coming. Let's do some little debugging. So it goes to a language and then this guy. So language URL, only point is the language URL. Do you mean languages URL? Oh, okay. Languages URL. So languages URL. And this is coming from the form. So language. Oh, I'm having an error. Can you see that? I'm redirecting to a language, but we don't have the um, show page for language created. That's why it is showing an error. So we like to redirect to um, languages path. So no, languages path. All right. Great. So once we create the language, we are redirecting to the languages path. Yeah, it was just created correct. I think I was trying to work with debugger and debugger just yell at me. So let me debugger. I think because there was an error, that's why debugger did not work as expected. But let's go to select new. Great. And this is another one. Great. Debugger stopped working and the app stopped working, and then we can check at language, which is coming. And look, language, sorry. Uh, language is going to be new. Hmm. It means that we are not saving the data correctly. There's no new and no route languages. Get started. Look, we are creating empty data. Why are we creating empty data? Like new, We are only allowing language as a name. Let's do some little debugging over here. So new is going to this form going to the model is language, and then we are submitting to language parent that can be and let's put it. Oh, you see params dot. We don't see permit, so require. My bad. My bad. Made a big mistake over here. Param dot require language, then we permit the name. Made a big mistake here. So after some debugging, let's just create a new language, and then let's see at language. Great, it's new. Never again. I think I did not refresh the page. On new. It was created, but I have to refresh my page. All right, so I'm having issues with that. So fix it. So we are able to create our language currently. It's working fine. Okay, so, but I think well, when creating some data, we'll like to add some validations, because if you look at this guy, it just added some empty data, and we don't want anyone to add some empty data. And can you imagine that there's a language and we'll go and check this language and it's empty? So let's think about adding validations to applications. So rules, validations, and I think there's a lot of validations we can check, but then let's assume that we want presence to be there. We don't just want someone to just add something. So we like to add presence. So, presence. Okay, so this is how they do it. We validate name presence is equal to true. It means that if someone, they go to language model, if someone should try to save a language without a name, then it is going to throw an error. Let's even specify like the length of the let's say the name. We don't just want someone to just go ahead and just add a there. We just want a minimum length of 2 or 3. Let's see. Refresh our page. We go to new, and let's say I would like to add an empty form. Look, it doesn't go. Let me add an A. It doesn't go, right? And then AB, it doesn't go. Then when I add a C, because the minimum is 3, then we're able to fit a new number. So it will just help us to avoid the pitfall entering like that empty thing. Then you can go ahead, if you need to look at the validations into details, you can go ahead and look at that real validations, active record validations. And there's a whole lot of things that you can validate. Even the error messages that I would like to show on screen, you can validate them and then say something. Yeah, we've not set up the validations correctly. That's why we are not seeing any error messages, but I think we should do it. When we were working on the normally after creating a new thing, we like to send the user to that details page for that thing that was created. We don't want to send the person to the details page. So let's add the show route. Show route. So that shows a single language. So it's going to be here. So let's see, it's going to be called show. And then that show is going to, we would like to set through the whole languages. And normally, like, let me check this in the rows console for you. So, all right. So if we want to, like in the rows console, if we want to find some language, let's say we can do language.find, and we can find one. And that one means that we are finding the language with an ID of 1. We can find language.find by 2. It will just find the language with an ID of 2. But if we try to find something that is not there, hey, it will throw an error. And we like to do the same thing here. So in the show, we are going to say that language 1 is going to be language.find, and we like to find by the param.id. So the param.id is going to be, let's say, language/1. So that's going to be the ID. So we would like to look into our database, find the language with that specific ID, and we would like to show it. We have the show action done. You remember what is next? We need a view. We'll go to languages, create a view. So it's going to be show.html.erb. And then we are not having the language. So all we can do is that, let's say, it's to this language details page. And we know that what we are having is language. So we can see it's just one thing. So it's at language dot name. Let's just show, sorry. Name, but yeah, we can just show the language dot name. It's left for one last thing, route. So let's go to route. And then we need a show action for this guy. So let me, like the rules guide is saying that for the routing, if it is going to be the show, this is how it should be. We get this, thing, like this guy. We give it an alias, and then we just add something like this. So it's just going to be languages. Then the action is going to language/show, and then we can see the language. Yeah, it's just one language. So the alias language, and now we are good to go. Let's. All right, so we have languages. Let's see language of find by 1. Yay, it find 1, it find 2. Uh-oh, we don't have edit. Yeah, we have 2. We got that language created, which is what I'm fine. We've not seen the show route. But I think we would not like to personally be adding 1, 2, 3. So let me go to the index, and then over here, what we can do is that we can do arrays link to, you see, link to some page, some path. Think who's helping with that? I don't know. So we are going to link to language, the name, and the path is going to be language. If this seems confusing, or you get used to it. Yay. So I'm going to have, language path. Let me save this paper. You got in the mirror, so let me check. Okay. Okay. Link to. Oh, can you see where I'm having issues? Look, this is just causing confusion. And yeah, and I think both, even all the two I did should work, but it's just because I was having the other thing over there. This two should work. So we have linked to the language, and this is just going to mean that like we want to go to that specific language path. If you don't want this, we can do this language path like language. This is like a magic. But one thing that can really help us is that sometimes normally we like to know the language name. Okay, this is just okay. So we like to go to rows info route. So if you want to know all the routes in your application, you come to rows info route, and they will show you all the path that you have and where those paths match to. For example, I did language path. Look, it's language path, and then it goes to slash language. Then when you want to go to the language ID, look, it's language path, then with the ID. So it means that we have to provide that ID to the language path, language slash ID. But if it is going to be languages, look, it is languages path. Then we have new language path. In fact, when I started learning Ruby on Rails, this was like some songs that someone singing, and it seems so confusing. But I'm just used to it. But if you don't want this way, I think you can also do something like this. If this is not what you want, sometimes you like to add some, like a block and put it in. So it can go something like this. So link to, let's say the same thing, language path. And then we add a do block and so we can just see language.need. And this too does the same thing. Yeah, this too does the same thing. No, if you can see that. It does the same thing. Yeah. Yeah, so that's the first part. Let's end here and then, yeah, we'll continue. All right, so in our application, we've been able to perform these actions. We've been able to work on these actions, the index, the show, the new, the create. So the next one, if we look at the Rails guide that we need to work on is we need to do edits. We've worked on all these. We need to do edit, update, and delete. Those ones are left. So to do the edits, I think we're going to follow the same convention. We create an action in the controller, then we create a view, then a route. Then let's do this. So let's go here, and then we need the form to do the editing. So let's go after this guy. I think we can, first of all right, let me copy this because it's following the same convention. Yeah. So the action is going to be edit, and then we are still going to get a form, that edit form. And this is going to, we're going to learn an interesting point here. So we need to create a view for this. So let's go to views and then languages, and let's add an edit the HTML, the ERB. Great. Then we need a form. But I think that the new form and the edit are almost the same. So we don't have to worry about the form. Let me just copy and paste this guy here. Let's do edit form. And then we are taking the language model. If you look at this, let's go to, it's still from this form, you need edit, and the language is, our language is going to be the model, and then we are just doing the edit form. And you see something surprising over here, that the moment we go to that edit form, we are going to see that the form will be open and it will be pre-populated with the data, which is already like that data specifically. Right, so we have the form done. Then the next thing we do is that we need to create a route. For this, I'm going to do route, and then we need a get form for the edit. Let me copy this, right? And then it's going to get, then we are going to edit, and then we'll go edit the language, right? So we have the model created, like everything is working. So now let's go to the lesson. Let's see 1/edit. Right. Yay, I've not started my server. Great. Let's go here. We don't have a rhyme. Languages 1/edit. We are having an issue with the route. Oh, look, we need to add the edit. I made a mistake. So let's hit it again. Great, we got it. Can you imagine this? It was the edit form. This is JavaScript. And then when you go to /edit, it just pre-populate the whole thing with the JavaScript. But for simplicity, I like to, in the index form, like where you go to the show, I like to add the ability for the user to go to that form automatically without we need for us to just type it manually. You get a point. We just want to do these scripts. So first of all, let me go here and all right, I think when we go to languages, great. So we have language, we take us to the details page, but and then when we add the details page, we like to add the edit form. So what we do is that we go to the show page, and then we can do something like that. This is going to do a link to, and then link to what? You see, edit, and then that is the name, and then it is going to be, let's look at the Rails route for that. I'm going to go to the route, and then let's say language. Great. Can you see that the edit? Oh, it has not been added. Let's refresh the page. So language. Great.
And then can you see we have edit language path, and we have to provide the language ID there. So let's just copy this, and then we go to edit language path, and then we are going to provide the language ID. We just have to provide this, and then we need to close it. So this will take us to the edit form. Let's save and see. Yay! Can you see this? And now when we click on it, it goes to the edit page. And then when we click on this guy, we see the edit form there. But if we want, we can add the edit form even here on this language page. I think what we can do is that, for us to do this. So we have the language name should be here. And then I think let's add the edit here. So let me just copy and paste this guy here. Index, and then let me add this. So it's linked to show, and it's going to be language path language. So we just take this away. Great, and this will take us to the show page. And then let me add the edits on top of it, so that at least we can do everything from here. All right, so this is edit, and then edit. And this, do we have the language? A language now. We are going to have language. I think you understand this, so let me go to this. Yeah, so we have the name, and then after the name, we want to add the links to show and edit. So when we go to the index page, I think you may want to do that. So JavaScript, you have show edit. This is Ambrose show edit. So when we click on edit, it takes us to the edit. When we click on show, it takes us to the show page. Unless we can do whatever we need. Right? And then we can, yeah, let's leave this over here. We don't care. So we have the edit form working up nicely. The next thing is that we would like to save this data. And for that, I would like to do some copy and pasting again from the Rails Getting Started guide. So create. Let me see. Oh, this takes me so long. I'm just going to displays. Yeah, this is the create form. So let me just copy and paste this guy here. And then we go controller, languages, and then after the create, we like to add the, sorry, after the, oh, we are going to update, sorry. All right, I'm not seeing it, so let me do it manually. Oh. I want to show you where it is. Sure, this is it. So first, what they are doing is that we find that language and we try to update it. If it works, we just redirect to the right place. If it doesn't, we show that it is an unprocessable entity. So I think the only thing between the edit and create is that for the first one, we are creating, but for the second one, we are updating. It means that we can just copy this guy, this create, and just do this update. And then when we come here, we are just doing if language dot update. And I think it should work. Looking at this, if language dot update, and then language is going to be if language dot update with language params. All right. Language article is going to article dot find language is going to language dot name. Okay. I want to see if this is going to work. Hold on. I've never tried it before, so let's go to edit. Then we need the route to do the we need a route to do the updating thing, and it's going to be patch instead of put. So let me just copy this. I think I can copy the post one, which is going to, yeah, but instead of post, it's going to be patch, and it is going to language / the ID, and then what do we want to do? We want to do the update, and then it's going to be update language. Great. So let's try to see if this should work. And then let me go to the language controller. Yeah, copy and paste this thing. So let's see. I don't know. I'm just testing this. If it doesn't work, then we update that thing. So let me go to this guy. Update it, and then woo! If language to update. Wrong and argument giving 0 expected 1. Yeah. Incoming. Right. So what we first want to do is that we would like to find the language, and then we see if language dot update, and then we like to pass in the language param. So language is going to be language dot. We like to do the find. I think I did this mistake. Param ID. So we find the language, and then if we are able to update the language with these language params, then we redirect. Yeah, I think that's the only thing. Initially, I think, look at what I copied. Oh, we copied the new one. Whoosh. And I think we are good to go. So this is updated. This language update. This language update. This language update. Oh, sorry. Look at me. Copy and paste is not always a good friend. Yay, the language was updated. And this is it. This guy is having nothing. Let's see. Give me a new name. And we've given it a new name. We can also add this. Great. So it means that the edit is also working. So when we want to edit and update, the only thing we do is that we find the language, then we check if the language can be updated with the language params. Then we redirect to the language path. This is going to work. Or if we want, we can say language path / language or the language itself. Each one we can redirect to language, and each one is going to work. I think it just have to do with real routes and things, which is going to, like, yeah, and it is going to work fine for us. All right, so thank you. That was it. We have been able to perform the edit update thing. The last one, if you look at this rules convention, the thing that we were doing, the last one is we did a patch, right? So the last one is delete. And that deletes, I want to do it inside we can do it anywhere, but let's do it here where we are adding this to it. With this, I would like to just show you how the rows route thing works. So let's do this. All right. Is this no? I'm sorry. The destroy, road route, and getting started guide. And oh, hold on. Before we go to the destroy, there's something important I want to show you. I almost skipped it. And that is that, let's look at these two forms. There's a nice concept that I almost missing. Let's look at these forms. This is going to be I even tried copying it so that you can see that the data here, the form data here, is almost identical to the data here. Can you see that? It's almost identical. Rails don't want us to repeat ourselves whilst working on things like this. So what they do is that they provide something called partials. And those partials is like how we write functions that can be reused over and over again, right? We provide some parameters and the function can be reused. In languages like React, we call them components. So they are reusable components. The same thing is happening in Rails. We can just create a reusable component. So instead of doing this, let's just cut this. And the partial in Rails, like they know that we are definitely going to create a form. So they have something, we can create a form. But the partial will start with an underscore. Then the name, then HTML.erb. So this form, like this partial, can be used in multiple places. But the only thing is this language, you see, this is a global variable. We don't want this to be that. We just want it to be a variable that can be passed to this component. And anyone who is calling this form can just pass the language. So we take the at, so it's no more a global variable. It's just a variable we are going to pass to it. We just save. And then let's go to where the form was used. That is here. And all we do is that we say we want to render form. And then do you remember that there was a variable that we missed? So this is that variable. It's called language, and it's set to at language. That language which is coming from the controller. Sorry. That language which is coming from the controller. And this is all we need for the new form to still keep working without great. You see that new form is still working as expected, and this is still working. Can you see that? And then we can reuse this also here, like in the edit form. Instead of creating, I think we are passing the same variable called language. So let's just save and then click on one of these and then updated working form. And then when we click on this, look, it has been updated correctly. And this introduced the good concept about that Rails is just working with, we call it partial. So anytime you want to reuse something in Rails, if it is going to be some HTML content or anything, we say don't repeat yourself. Just create a partial for it. Just create a partial and then give it the variable that you would like to reuse, and then it is going to be used over and over again. We normally use partials when we are dealing with something like headers, side navs, navigations, anything that is going to be reused, you can pass it as a partial and then reuse it over and over again. I think you find it helpful, right? We are going to see it being reused over and over again when we use the scaffold generator to generate our application. Sorry, to generate our entities. Great. We are almost finishing up with all the rest. The last one that I was going to show you off is the delete. And then let's see how the delete works. We're also saying that, sorry, it is the destroy. They are saying that we should find the article, destroy it, and then just redirect to the right place. So let's see if I can just do my lazy work of copying and pasting, and then come here, and then let's try to do this. We find the language, then we call it language, and then If we find it, we destroy it. Then we redirect to the root path. Right. Let's save. And then let's see how we are going to reuse this. They are saying that to reuse this, we just need to do this. Just copy this guy here and come inside the index and then just paste here. But when I was testing this, this is going to be, if after destroying it, we like to go to the languages part, no language. After destroying, we go to the languages part where we see the other language. Sorry, oh, great. After destroying it, we go to the link to for that. Right. Right. So this is what they are giving us. But yesterday I found it to be some error code and it was just giving me issues. So I decided to figure it out, and this is going to be the right thing. It's button to, we use buttons to destroy. So button to do what? To destroy. This is just a name, you can pass anything. And then what are we trying to destroy? We are trying to destroy the language, this specific language. And then we provide the method. This is only if we are going to work with destroy, then we provide the method, and the method is delete. Delete. Great. And this should be enough to destroy this. And then we are seeing that once we destroy, we should redirect the user to the, I don't want to go to the root path, I want to go to the languages. There. Sure. Let's see this. Cool. So can you see this? This is destroy, destroy. The destroy is attached to what we are trying to destroy. Let's destroy this JavaScript. Oh, sorry, we've not created a route for that. That's why it keeps refreshing over and over again. So we need a route to destroy. So let's add a route. Did you get that? I think it should routes. Great. We need a route to destroy. So it's going to be a delete, and it's going to be slash, sorry, languages slash the language ID. And what do we want to do? We go to language this slash, oh, the HTTP action is this. So, and then as the alias is destroy language. Right. I think that should be it to destroy the language. And then let's refresh our page. And let's now hit enter. Good. It is going, and we are destroying everything. And this is working. And can you see that after destroying, they get back to this thing. If you want to redirect the user to some other place after destroying the thing, you can just do that, and it will just work. All right, so I think it was enough. This is how we create production from scratch. All we did is that we need to create a model. That's the first one. We test it, we see everything is working. Then two, we create a controller. Then we create controller actions. And those actions, for example, index, will be mapped to a view inside a controller name, that name folder inside the views file. Then we create a view for that based on the action name. So if the action name is index, the view name is going to be index. If it is show, show. So that is a convention Rails use. And then we map it to a route inside the route file. And then we are able to see that on the screen. And then we can just do our normal thing we're doing in the Rails console and just take the data that we want to interact with and then show it to the user. And I think if you get lost, the Rails documentation is just doing a great job explaining things that you need to do and everything for us. And yeah, I think this is great. But there's some little things that I would like to update. You remember me telling you that Rails is saying that we don't have to like repeat ourselves. But if you look at this code, there's a lot of things that we've repeated. And one of them is this guy here. This language is equal to language defined by ID. And you can see that we are repeating it in 3 or 4 places. And this is an error. Rules don't want this. So there's something we can do so that will allow all the actions to get access to this. And what we do is that we should define, let's say, define language params. Oops, sorry. Define. We should set language. And it's just a name we are giving it. So that language itself, this language that we are trying to find all the time, we can just grab it, take it away from here, and just put it here. And just put it here. And then in Rails, if we want to allow something to get access to something, we set a before action, right? So when we come up here, we see before action, then we set what? We set language. They even give it to us. Then which actions need this language? Then I think we need it for show, then edit. Yeah, so we can say command only, and then the methods are going to be show, the show needed, then, sorry, the show needed, then we can take it away from here. The edit needed, let's go ahead and just see that, oh, edit need also needed, then update also needed, so update also needed, then the destroy, I think I took it away from here, also needed. Destroy also needed. And when we do this, it means that before you grab access, you go to this action, just set this language. And it is automatically going to insert that language thing that we put, this thing, it is automatically going to insert it here for us. The benefit is that we don't want to keep repeating the same thing over and over again, because if there should be an error, it should be easy to correct it in just a single place instead of going to look at it from multiple places. And then once we refresh this page, I think everything should work as expected. Nothing should break. And then we can go to the show. Great, you can see that show is working, edit is working, and then I think destroy tool is working. And then boom, everything is working as expected. All right, so thank you so much for joining me as we create a product app. We created CRUD from scratch. Yeah, that was funny and interesting. I think you can see that creating all of these things from scratch is not too easy for us. Let me share my screen again. So we created all of these from scratch. We created a model, views, controller, route. We created all of them from scratch. And I think you can see that it's not too easy to do all of these. And can you imagine we repeating this over and over for all the entities that we want to work on. So the first thing is only for language. And just look at the time we spend working on all these. And we are going to work on the same thing for category, course, section, lessons, user, and build all the associations. It's not going to be too easy. And that's the power of where Rails come to our aid. Ruby on Rails is saying that instead of doing all those from scratch, you can use the scaffold generator. And that generator can do a lot for us. So let's do ROG scaffold that's H, and then let's see what they provide for us, which makes coding Ruby on Rails so easy. And they are saying that the scaffold generator, when we want to generate a scaffold, all we do is that we provide the scaffold, the name of the entity we want to provide, the field, the type, and the index. And this, what it does is that it is going to generate a model for us, the migration, the route, the controllers, and all the views we want. Can you imagine? So they are saying that scaffold is an entity resource from model and migration to controller and views, along with a full text suite. Can you see that? The resource is ready to use as a starting point for your RESTful resource-oriented application. And it makes coding so easy. So all we do is that they are saying that we should pass a name of the model in singular form, either camel keys or underscore as a first argument, and an optional list of attribute pairs. Let's look at an example. So let's assume that we want to generate a scaffold for post. This is an example. So what we do is that we can generate a scaffold, add the field name, then the attribute for the field. Can you see this? And then we can keep adding all these attributes. And there's a beautiful thing about scaffold. If we want to connect or make, there should be an association between two models, we can use the references. I'm trying to see if it is here. I don't see it, but don't worry, I'm going to show you how it works so soon. So let's try to use the scaffold to work on this, and you see that it is so easy. Let's try to work on the category, and the category is going to be for, let's say, 13, beginner, intermediate, advanced. So let's see. So Rails G scaffold, and they said we should provide the name for the model, but in singular form, not in plural, so in singular. So the name is category, and then we have only name, which is a string. And let's see what it generates for us. Yay, there's a lot going on. Can you see that? First, it created a migration. Let's look at how the migration looks. Yay, it created a migration for us. And we don't have to worry about anything. It has everything. Then let's see if it created a model class for us. That too is here. So we created a model class for the category. Then what else was created? It created all the ERB views. Look, it has the views for index, edit, show, new form, and then the category. Whoa. Then it also created a controller. And one beautiful thing is that it has all of this. So all the things we're worrying about. Let me just minimize this. Can you see that that before action that we set is here? It created an index route. Almost everything that we did by hand has been created for us without any hectic work. And this is beautiful. It even went ahead to say that we can render what we are displaying in different formats. We can render it in HTML, or render it in JSON. For us, we only care about the HTML, but forget about the rest. Later, we can just skip some of these things and make our life easier. And this is so beautiful. Yeah. Can't you see that this is beautiful? And when we go to the, I think it also did something else for us. It generated the views. Sorry, the route folder. So let me go to route. And it generated a route called resort. Now, I should have shown you earlier that all these, can you imagine that normally when we are creating a Rails application, we are going to touch on all these 7 HTTP actions and verbs. And it's just going to be repetition over repetition over repetition. So Rails is saying that instead of doing all these 7, don't worry about it. Just go ahead and create a resource called this. And this is going to represent all of the 7 without any problem or without working on anything. So it's going to have the show for the index page, the new form, the post form, the updates, everything, all the things that we do, just do the resource thing and it is going to work for you. But if you want to add some custom HTTP verbs and assign them to some route, then you can add them specifically if they are not part of these 7. But if they are part of these 7, don't worry, they are inside the resource. And this is what has been created for us. All right, I think we've created our entity. So the next thing that we do is that let's run a migration, Rails DB migrate, and see if we can test with this. We can just play with this data which has been created for us. So this is created for us, Rails S to start the server. But before we go, I like to test it in the Rails console. Let's say Rails C. Let's test this. So we created category. Let's see category.all. Yay, we have no category, but it's been created. So let's see category.create. Let me add the pound sign so that we check if there are any errors. And the category has a name. Let's see first. I'm going to add, let's see, beginner. Yay. It has been created. Intermediate. Yay, that one too has been created. And the third one has also been intermediate. We don't want it that way. So let's try and update it and see. Let's say A is equal to category, the ID 3. So find 3. And then when we click on A, that is the third. So A dot name, this is how we update it, is equal to advanced. Then let's see E dot C. Yay, we've updated it. And let's see E has been saved. And then let's see category dot all. Can you see that? It is working. And then we can perform the delete action. This is so cool. Let's go to the views and see if categories is also working. Look at this. We have seen all the categories. We can show a category. We can edit a category. Beginner edited. It has been edited. We can go back to categories and see that the beginner is edited. Let's see that we see this. We can destroy it. It has been destroyed. Can you see? This is so easy. It makes coding anything so easy. And this is why we love Ruby on Rails. All right. I think we don't have to worry at all. Let's just go ahead and create the other entities. The other entities. I think that is all. Like, let me add a git commit message. So, sorry. All right. So the other ones, Close others. Yeah, I like to close the others. We have category created. Let's go to course. We like to just do the rest and then focus on some other stuff. So a course has a name. Let's do this. So Rails G scaffold. So if you are generating a migration is Rails G migration. If you are generating a controller, Rails G controller, it is a model Rails G model. But this one we are generating scaffold. So Rails G scaffold, and it's called course, and it has a name and it's type string. But if you decide to ignore the type string, it's Rails know that by default, the data structure is a string. So don't worry about this. So let's add some description, and let's make description a text, because description could be long text. And then category has a language ID. And then how do we do that? The power of Rails is that we can do, let's see, language, and we see references. And it is going to add a language ID inside the course. Let's do the same thing for category references. So it's going to create a category ID and a language ID inside the course for us. And then we don't have to worry about it. If you want to see this, let's look at the controller which was generated for us and see the permitted params. We're going to see that, look, the param that we are permitting is language ID and then the category ID. If we look at the migration which was generated for us, you can see that the language ID and the category ID are going to be there for us. Can you say this? We have references to the language ID and the category ID. You don't have to worry about it. So, yeah, that's it. Let me just add a commit message to this, because we don't want to worry at all. Okay. This is paused. All right. So let's add the last one, because we like to go ahead and test them as soon as possible. A course is having many sections. Can you see this? Sorry. This is the sample we are building. This is a course. It has like name, description. Then it has many sections. So there's a section, there's a section, there's a section. So let's create a section. This is the entity. So Rails G code section, and the section has a name, description, which of type text, and then course, which is reference. Can you see this? Great. And then let me add it. This is a section. Just want to go fast because we know what we are creating. It just generates a scaffold for us. We don't have to worry. We just want to go and focus on something else. We know what we're doing. So let's generate the last one, which is lesson. So Rails the scaffold lesson. Can you see that rules make things easier for us? So scaffold lesson, it has a name, description, and then do we need the URL? Okay. Then section references. Lesson is either already in use in your application or our app name is called lesson, so we can create a lesson. Yeah, so let's call it something else. Let's call it this. Lessons are not only videos. Lessons, yeah, it's a lesson. Let's call it lecture. All right. because the app name cannot be a scaffold name. It just collide, and Rails don't like it, because if you are trying to find something, it will just get confused. What are you trying to find? Are you trying to find the app name or the scaffold name? It's just going to cause issues. That's why Rails say, hey, don't do this. I don't like it. All right, so we have all the scaffold generated, and let's add, this is for lecture. All right, great. So we have all our things done, and then to test this, let's see, we can take this really quick. Let's open the, let's do Rails Rails DB my great. Yeah, just get everything inside of it. Perfect. So we have no issues. So in just some few seconds, we've been able to create all the entities for this with no worries. The next job is to test to see if this works. So let's see, schema. This is our schema. We have the course created for us nicely. We have the course created for us nicely. We have the language, lectures, sections, and can you imagine? This is so cool. Everything is up and running. So let's try and see. So we have categories. Let's see. Sections. Great. We can add a new section, and a section is having all of these. I don't want to tap on this, but we'll test it later. Then you have course section. Then you have lectures. Yay! Can you see this? We have everything set up running so nicely. All right. I think we played about around this before. That's why I don't want to waste so much time in like going to play with them one by one. Right. The next stuff is that to really test this, we want to test everything, the relationship, the migration, everything. To really test it, we need some data. We need some data. We can't just say, oh, I'm testing it, and I'm going to create this data one by one using the Rails console. That's going to be a lot of work for us. And the power of Rails is that they make things easier. Now let's go here inside our browser and see what Rails gives us. There's something called, there's a gem called what do we call it? So Faker. Yeah, it's hard. All right. So there's a gem called Faker, and what that gem does is that it helps us to generate fake data. So it helps us to generate fake data. So in case you want to generate a fake, let's say, usernames, instead of worrying about how do I get usernames, let's say you want to generate fake email addresses, just go ahead and install this gem, and it will do everything for us. So how do we do that? I think this is the first gem we are installing. So I'm going to gem file, right? And just put this somewhere. So we want to put this inside test development and test file, so that, because this is just going to, in production, we don't want to do like use the figure, or maybe we may want to use it. Let's assume we deploy our app and then we want to generate some fake data automatically. Don't worry, let's put it here. Okay, how about that? So to install that gem, say Rails, bundle. It will just bundle everything for us, and then it will install all the bundles in our application. Rails gem file, which has not been installed. All right. After generating that, installing that Faker, what we do is that, where do we like write these test data? In our application, there's something called seed file. Look, and let me show you what it does. They are saying that this file should contain all the record created needed to see the database with its default values. The data can be loaded with Rails DB seed. So if we want to just seed some data or load some data into our database, Rails is saying that we should use this file. And they are giving us an example of how we can create this file. So let's go ahead and test this to see that if our file is really going to work. First, let's open our Rails console. I want to show you what is there. We are going to see some data. Let's see, first we want to see programming languages. So let's see, let's see first if we have, how many languages we have there. Take away some of these languages and then language.org. We have no language, right? But let me show you how to see the file. So let's look at this example. Let's look at this. I want to take this file off. They are saying that we do create movie.create, and then we add a file like the movie entities. And yeah, this is how we create a movie. Like this, an entity inside our modalities. But if we want to generate some multiple times, let's say we like to generate 10 times. So Rails is saying that we can do 10 times. Let's say do, then we open and we end. And this is going to create anything here 10 times, right? We don't have to worry at all about what is going to happen. But we don't want to create movies. We like to create languages. So let's say language.create. And what does a language have? Let's take away one. And for our application, a language has a name, right? So it has a name, but we would like to get some name from with the help of Fika. So we come to the Fika website, and when we want to get something, you can search for it. But I tried searching and I saw that when you come to the default, there's a lot of things you could generate. So addresses, app, appliance, artist, avatar, blood, there's a whole lot. Crypto, can you see that? And when you scroll down, there's something called programming language. I think it's, yay, can you see this? We can generate programming language. And this will generate a programming language like Ruby. So let's go ahead, copy this, come here and do this. And that's all we need to do. Do you remember how they said we should see the data? They said we can run Rails DB seed. So let me quit the server. All right, so we just run Rails DB seed. All right, and it will just put 10 programming languages inside our database. Now, if there are any errors, it will show up here. If it just returns nothing, it means that it was seeded correctly. All right, great. So let's go to Rails, see what data was generated for us. All right, so you remember first there were no languages, but look, now there are so many languages out there for us. We don't have to worry about creating this language. Can you see this? And it keep creating the language for us without any worry. And this is the power of Rails. Can you imagine the work we should have done if we were to create 10 languages one by one? Rails make coding easy. That's why we love it. All right. We don't only want to work with language. I think we need to comment it out, because if you don't comment it out, anytime you run Rails DB seed, it will run like see that thing again. So here we had categories. So I think we have categories. I've already done that. So don't worry about category. The next one is that we want to go with course. And I don't want to waste your time when preparing this course. I did, like I prepared this thing for you. So let me copy and paste here. So you have a course and section, and this is going to be sure. Let me compare that with the schema. Oh. To see if all the fields are correct. So when we come to course, the course is having a name, description, language, then category. Great. Then when we come to section, a section is having the description, the course ID. Then when we come to lecture, yeah, lecture is having name, URL, section ID, and description. Great. So we are good to go. But then let me explain some things here for you. I think with the name, we're able to use educator.name now. I found it here. Educator. Can you see this? And it generates fake data on education. And for the paragraph, I use the DeLorean paragraph, generate 2 paragraphs. We can generate up to 20 paragraphs, we don't care. But the beautiful thing is that how do we, like there's a relationship. Like language is having, course is having a language ID. But how do we get a real language ID from our database? We're also saying that we can say language, that model name, the sample.id. It means that go to the language model, get me an ID for this. It's beautiful. It just do the work for you. And this is what we have here. Great. So this is going to generate 100 courses. 100 courses. And then they are going to be, you know what I want to do? Let me take away some of the, I want to take away some of these things so that and then let's say language dot find right. Great. Okay, so I just wanted to so great. We are having only 5 languages. The reason is that if we have so many languages inside our database, then the courses should be so many. But we just want to only have some few courses. Let's say 50 courses. And then the sections for those courses are going to be, yeah. Just want something like this, which is cool. Yeah. So you can generate any number of data you like, but it's just a personal preference for testing. Right. So, all right. So Rails BB, that just means my personal preference. If there are no errors, it means that data has been seeded correctly and we don't have to worry about anything. Great. We got so many data in our database. Let's go and test. So for lessons, now it was empty, but now let's refresh the page. Can you see this? We have so many lectures, so many lectures. Let's go to, what do we call it? Courses. We are having so many courses that we can test with. And let's go to sections. Yay, we have so many sections. And then lectures 2 is endless. And this is the power of that Rails seed. We can just some data, we can just get some data for testing to make our life easier. Okay. Okay, so we've seen this working and everything is working. We've seeded some data that we can work with. We've created all the entities that we want to work with. And so far we have these entities done. For the controllers are done, the views are there, the models have been created. But there's still a lot of work to be done. First of all, the associations. Do you think they are set up correctly? That's number 1. We'll talk about it now. Then if you come here, looking at how they've structured the course, like it has a subject, like this is belong to a programming language. It has this, and we're able to count the lessons in each section and then add up all of them together and then count them for the total number of lessons. We say the category for that course, then we are listing everything up here. And this is what we would like to cover. But let's do that in the next video where we talk about all the things, including styling, associations, then yeah, the rest of the things there. So thank you for watching. I'll see you in the next video where we talk about what is left here. Thank you.